afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. Public service and community service is near and dear to my heart. I'm a longtime Lion. You know, I know each type of club is different in what they do, but the mission is all the same: is to serve. So I appreciate what you do. It's fun to be on the inside and see it from your perspective and see some of the topics that are coming up and the way you organize your meetings. So that was a lot of fun. But I have to be honest, in the little who did it or who done it, I thought it was hunting for waterfowl. I didn't. And then I thought I knew. So I don't have a very formal presentation for you. I skipped the slideshow because the one that I have really, I mean, we could focus on any one of those slides for quite an amount of time. I know our time here is limited, so I just want to also please don't hesitate to ask questions. I'm new to this. I'll get to that in a second. So, questions certainly make me feel a little bit better, or a little more at ease. So, with that, again, Steve Dennison, new county clerk, took over for Nancy Blankenship, longtime beloved county clerk, and Redmondian. How would you say that? Person from Redmond. Redmondite. Anyway, yeah. So it's nice to be up here in Redmond, where she calls home and that she's so fondly of. But anyway, so she retired last summer. Board of County Commissioners voted that I would take over as county clerk for the remainder of Nancy's term. I'm running for that seat going forward, and so glad to be here. I was honored that she even suggested that I take over. Not new to elections. I've been in elections over 20 years in one capacity or another. Started out in elections technology on the East Coast, and worked all over the country with different jurisdictions, supporting elections, and then ultimately wound up in California, working for a county down there. Fairly medium-sized California county, but large in Oregon comparison. San Mateo County, California, over 400,000 registered voters. Came up here, started working for Nancy, and 4 years later, the rest of history brings us to where we are right now. One of the big topics, of course, is redistricting. It might be on your mind, and what happened, and what is it, and where are we going, what are you going to see on your ballot? So the legislature, after each census, every 10 years, will redraw the district lines. Some states will do it by a commission. Here in Oregon, we do it by the legislature. So legislature power obviously has the influence. They drew the lines in such a way that they are right now. Some challenges were brought to the courts, but those challenges were upheld, and the lines are now finalized. It was our role to take those lines and make the changes to our precinct layers. So to ensure that voters are going to be voting for their new representatives. So we had to take that data and apply it to our current, or past now, district maps. So we had 50 precincts starting out. We wound up with still 50 precincts. We had to move some precinct lines, adjust north, south, east, west, or whatever, based on those new congressional, Senate, and House district lines. There were some really large changes. Most voters in the county were changed in one way or another. Of the 155,000 registered voters, over 140,000 had some change or another. The biggest changes was that the 5th Congressional District now loops us in, came right over the mountains, and sucked up most of the county, at least population-wise. So you'll see it on our new district maps, and those are available on our website. We have the county-wide, we have it by city, and then we have it right down to the precincts level if you really want to drill down and see what those lines are. But that 5th Congressional District line that looped us in starts, it's down in, I guess it's south of Bend, and north, anyway, it pulls in Sun River, Bend, except for some very small eastern portions of Bend, Redmond, Sisters, again, the majority of the population. I think there are 20,000 registered voters or in that ballpark that are still Congressional District 2. So everybody else has changed in one way or another. So you may have received a notification card, letting you know what your new districts are. Those will be the contests that you'll see on your ballot in this May and November, if you are affiliated with one party or another. And get to that in a little bit when we talk about some election-specific items, but being that we're a closed primary state, your party affiliation obviously impacts what you see on your ballot. We're all still technically today represented by Cliff Bentz in that 2nd Congressional District. His term ends the end of this year, and whomever is elected in this year, if you reside in that 5th Congressional District, will be your new representative. Whoever wins in Congressional District 2 will be your new representative there. Any specific questions about redistricting? John, I know you're kind of
I know it's political,
yeah.
But the fact that we're tied to Portland doesn't make sense to me at all.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, and that's why I mentioned that. I mean, it's entirely out of my control, as you understand, but I think that nonpartisan commission really makes a lot of sense, because if it's not Democrats today, it'd be Republicans tomorrow, and in some states that is the case. It's always the opposing party that's the one battling. It's one that is in power that can make the decisions, and then the other that is chasing it down and trying to get it changed. If you had a nonpartisan commission, obviously it's neutral, and that's where I come from. I'm on the neutral side. I'd rather see it all just by population, which is truly where it should be, and by those natural dividing lines. A mountain range is a natural dividing line. I still don't understand how that happens, but again, it's my job to apply the lines that were drawn. Sure, you know, that's kind of where we are. But I do agree with that. Yeah.
The process to change that from a legislative to a nonpartisan, is that the legislature has to pass a law, or could an initiative process?
That's a great question. I really should know the answer, especially if I'm spouting off saying that would be a great idea. But I don't know. Yeah, it's one or the other. But yeah, but 2 avenues for that, certainly.
I just moochers sound kind of dumb about all this stuff. But does the governor have any say in those redrawn districts?
So if the legislature,
I mean, outside of the political nature of the process.
I'm not sure exactly where her influence would lie on that, but it is the legislature's
sole prerogative.
So yeah, it is that is their responsibility. And ultimately, if they weren't able to come to an agreement, and there were a lot of conversations going on, the challenges, if they weren't able to come to an agreement, it was going to fall on the Secretary of State and a commission that she had put together to redraw those lines.
So kind of yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good question.
So I live in the north end of Redmond, and I think I'm no longer represented by anybody from Redmond. Who are my state senators and representatives?
So again, still today, it's those same ones that have been your representatives the last few years. It'll be who you see on your ballot that will be different. Without looking at your address, I honestly don't know. I have a pretty good idea of that congressional district line, but those House and Senate district lines were a little bit different as well. Those are a lot more cleanly drawn, to be honest. They but they really sliced and diced the county as well. And we now have a new House district, and it's the eastern portion. It's House 60. We have that new Congressional District 5. So those are a couple of new ones to us. But the other ones, the lines were shifted in quite a few creative ways.
You mentioned Cliff Bentz being on the current 2.
Yes.
But then there's a new 2. Will he be on that ballot also?
I do believe he is running for that seat for the Second Congressional District. So again, that portion of Deschutes County, though, now.
But that won't cover us.
Unless you live east of town, that's right about where that line is. And
In Bend, not Redmond.
It's well east. I wish I had that PowerPoint. So I can show you. Yeah, take a look at our website, and you can see exactly where those lines are. We have those maps up there. But it's just to talk about, again, those the House and Senate district lines were very clean. They follow roads and other natural lines that it's in statute for them to follow. But then the congressional district lines really did some really wonky things in southeast Bend, east side of Bend. Not as much up here, other than maybe going through a couple of tax lots that we had to determine. But there's one street in particular in Bend that still kind of irks me. Within city limits are here. These homes are here. The congressional district line just loops in one little street, 9 homes within the city boundaries. So for me, and drawing the precinct lines, now I have a precinct split, whereas I wouldn't have before, and it's split on congressional districts. So one side of the street, or one neighbor would have one thing on the ballot, and the other neighbor would have the other. And to be honest, I don't know that level of detail until after everything's final and I'm trying to apply these changes. Then I can see, well, gee, that doesn't make any sense. I'd love to contest that. Unfortunately, it's even too late for us to do anything about it.
But when you look at those maps, one needs to keep in mind that when you talk about gerrymandering, we don't even come close to what gerrymandering is when you really look at it. You look at places where the snake goes almost 3/4 of the way around the city. It may only be a mile wide. And so no matter where you draw the line, there's somebody on the other side. It's going to be closer. It's really easy always to get emotional about this stuff. But Oregon is so much better than most all the other states, and in particular in the East, where you see what real gerrymandering is. You can make animals out of some of those places. It has nothing to do with anything but, like you said, politics.
We have larger jurisdictions, a lot of jurisdictions now, not even the big ones because they have some smaller ones, but we have ballot sorters. So on incoming mail, we can process it faster. We can sort things differently. We can capture signatures electronically, really add some efficiencies. Our sorters, our technology, our tabulation systems are set up for mail processing. For states that weren't, that they were a polling place state, they have a lot of, they'll have warehouses full of voting machines, not the tabulation systems that really handle the mail. So again, good on them for trying. I'm sure they learned a lot, but and a lot of them did call local clerks here, but Oregon has it down. And then the other piece about 2020 and other elections, we got it right. There was nothing different in Oregon. There was nothing different in Deschutes County. We nailed it. We hit it out of the park. But when you get it right, unfortunately, especially in elections, that doesn't make the news. Right. So, we did get it right. We do our audits. We do our post-election audits for special district elections, primaries and generals, and those all came out to spec. Those results are posted on the state's website. I can't speak to other states. I can't say who did what right or wrong or anything like that. I can speak to Oregon, and I know we did get it right. And if I can't convince somebody standing right here in front of me that's listening to somebody 3,000 miles away, it's a tricky argument to try and prove a negative. Again, organize it down. I guess that's my spiel.
You didn't change anything last minute, though, did you?
We didn't, because that's what we were already doing. Yeah. We already had all these procedures and processes in place. The statute was there. The law backed us up. We didn't need to change anything. Your signature is still our point of validation. The way we count it. Our voter registration system still knows what ballots we're looking for when they come back. We still issue your very specific ballot ID when we issue you first or second ballot or third ballot. We know what each one of those pieces of mail is, outgoing and coming back. So we didn't change anything.
A lot of the other states were reacting to COVID too.
They were, yeah. Like I said, I understood. Yeah, I could appreciate that, and I think vote by mail is a great concept. I believe in voting centers too, and kind of going out and reaching voters where they need to be sometimes, because there's that inclusiveness that comes with it. There's an expense too. Overall, vote by mail works. It works great. Is it perfect? No, but overall it does work.
Chris has been educating me in the last few minutes here, but when you vote by mail, you get a ballot sent to you, and again, this is all foreign to me, but outside of absentee voting. Is there a voter identification process or verification process?
Signature.
That you're the person, signature?
Signature, and you're right, but I think the question might go along a little bit more to when you're registering and things like that. So there's no voter ID. There's no ID law in Oregon. You don't have to show. You don't need to be.
You don't have to verify that you're the person voting.
You don't, with the exception of that you are signing to say that you are. So Oregon is an attestation state. You are attesting to say that you are who you say you are. You are signing under penalty of perjury, a felony, to say that you are who you are, that you are a citizen, that you're at least 16 years old to pre-register, that you are the one casting that ballot, and if you're not, then you're liable to.
What happens when you get a signature that doesn't look like all the rest of it?
So yeah, we'll verify every signature on every envelope by human eyes. Our staff is all trained. We go through state training annually to know what to look for in a signature. Some counties use automatic signature verification. Technology's there, it works, but we haven't gone there yet, and to be honest, I still feel very comfortable using our staff to do that signature verification. But we'll verify everyone. If we can't find a match on that first level, the most recent registration update for you, whether it was you at the DMV and your DMV signature, or when you signed a registration card and submitted that, we have all those on file for you. If we can't find a match initially, it'll go to a second level of verification, and we'll look. We're trying to find a signature that we have on file for you that matches.
And if it can't, does it get rejected?
It gets challenged, and we're going to mail you a letter, and you're going to have now, and I'll explain why in a moment, but you'll have 21 days after election day to resolve that. So election day comes and goes. You might not get a letter until the day after because you submitted your ballot in one of our drop boxes the day before. But we're going to mail you that letter, and you have 21 days post-election. You might say, well, the election's passed. But we can still count your ballot. And we want to count your ballot.
But it had to be in on time.
It had to be in on time.
So, and that, so
Great
that
segue,
means I
thanks.
have to remember how I
Yeah.
signed my name when I registered to vote.
Correct.
Do you
It's
sign
tricky
your
sometimes.
way?
Well, your
Different
signature
way?
should not change
I
ever
scribble
unless you
most of the
want-
time.
It
I don't
varies.
understand.
You might break, you might have a hand
Yeah.
issue. You
You
know,
should have a signature that's consistent if you don't want to have fraud issues.
Right.
Just
No,
gonna be
I get it. I get
and
it.
signatures evolve. You see,
They do,
You
but
know,
they should be.
not to be on the youth, but the youth are now printing their names, and it's really hard to tell. I don't know that the signature will always be your point of validation, but
Because
it's
they're
what we
not
have
taught
today.
cursive anymore.
They're not. I know. I have a 5th grader, and he just said I hadn't heard about cursive in a little while. Like sometimes it comes and goes in elementary school, but he just said, "We finished cursive." Oh, you got it? I'm like, I finished cursive. I'm like, we're 5th grade. You might have just started a month ago.
His phone can do it for him.
Yeah, there we are.
If there's a name change, like your marriage or whatever, you can re-register, correct?
Correct. And so, yeah, about signatures, yeah, your signature can evolve, and a younger person might finally, figure out a good way to sign their name, and then it may change over time, but it doesn't change that dramatically. We have signatures that are 40 years old, some instances that still look the same. But you might have a fancy signature, and you might have a very deliberate, you're spelling out your name type of signature. We're going to send you a letter just the same, and then you can still resolve that. But as far as the
I've
names,
seen, even looking back at mine, like I see my mom brings out stuff from when I was like 8 years old. It's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, like, kind of ridiculous.
which is the crazy thing about it, as we go through this training, that's part of it. Once you lock in your signature, it's typically pretty much the same.
Yeah, not to say it doesn't.
It doesn't, evolve or change, but name changes. If we notice that a voter changes their name just the same, we'll mail them a letter and say, hey, you need to re-register. Re-registering, you can do that right up until 8 o'clock on election night. If you were inactive because of a signature challenge, or you were inactive because of return mail or something else, we can reactivate you right up until 8 o'clock on election day. You can come to our office and do so. I have some more notes about deadlines too. John?
Quick point, our son Danny turned 16, and even though he can't vote till he's 18, the Oregon Motor Voter deal automatically gave him the option to register to vote right now, and his signature got rejected and kicked back. It was horrible.
I'm not sure what mechanism would kick it, because we're not really, so yes, you're right, we will track him. He can pre-register. We'll be ready to mail him a ballot, first eligible election.
My question is how do you update your roles? And like, I'll give 2 examples. So like my daughter's in Eugene right now. She's registered here. If I don't know that she might have registered over there because she's at school, she could get 2 ballots. The second question is, how do you update it when someone passes away?
We have a lot of sources of data. So for your daughter, at least, so each state, this is part of the Help America Vote Act, which was implemented in 2002 as a result of the hanging Chad issues and things like that. But part of that is that every state is to have a centralized voter registration database. Some are at the county level and talk with the states, and some are at the state and talk with the counties, but they're all still, some states are almost real time. Ours is real time. So if your daughter is registered here, she can't be also registered over there unless there was somehow a duplicate registration in the system, which is typically caught by her, caught by her clerks, or
Right.
as we're weeding through things.
Right.
So she's only going to be mailed 1 ballot. She can only ever count 1 ballot. Cross state lines is a different story, but ultimately that's the Fed's catch up with that. But yeah, so here she can only vote once, or she can only vote once. Sources of information. So we take in changes, of course, directly from voters. And she can also check her registration online. Anyone can check their registration online on OregonVotes.gov to see what address we have for you. Just make sure, or if you're going to be out of town or you're a snowbird, we can track that address and mail your ballot wherever you like. The sources of updates is from the voter. It's from the post office and national change of address or return mail. There's one particular multi-state consortium that the state of Oregon does subscribe to, that over 30 states do, that share data, and that includes deceased records and things like that. We get county health records. We receive state health records that contain deceased voters, and we'll update accordingly. We check obituaries daily in all the local papers to try and find when somebody had passed. Our rolls are as clean as they ever have been. It's because of all those sources of data. So we're constantly updating, constantly. So on return mail, we're going to send you a notification or confirmation card to say, hey, you've been inactivated because of return mail. Are you still here? Or where do you live? Are you still in the state? You can cancel off that.
What about Social Security index?
Social Security, we use that as a point of reference. We use the, as John mentioned, a point of updates is and data is through the DMV, through Voter. Voters are automatically registered if they go in there and do a qualifying transaction. We use the Social Security database as a point of validation. If a voter doesn't have an Oregon driver's license and they provide that last four of their social, we can validate it against the Social Security.
I'm thinking of the death.
Yeah, we do. We use. In fact, we do. Somebody will call and say, "Hey, my spouse passed away. Will you just remove them?" I can't take that over the phone. I can't take any update over the phone. But when I had that person on the phone, I said, what is your spouse's last four of their social? If I can plug that in, then our system bounces against Social Security. It says this is a single match and it's deceased. I can work on that. So, but yeah, we try and keep our rolls as clean as possible, and all those sources feed into that.
Thank you.
That's great. Right. So just real quick on deadlines. How are we time? Are we over? We're over.
We're just about there.
Okay. So we ballots are already going out for this election, for the May election. We mail to military and overseas voters 45 days before every election. So those ballots are already coming in. We mailed to out-of-state voters earlier this week on the 18th, and then we'll be mailing to everybody on the 27th. So everybody should see your ballots. Get your voter's pamphlet before that, but the ballots on the 27th. The trick is, especially in a primary, is the close of registration is the day before that. It's the 26th. So if you're not registered to vote, you need to register or have your ballot postmarked, your registration postmarked by the 26th, so we can get you added to the rolls. But that deadline for a primary election is also the party change deadline. So if you registered at the DMV or through the DMV and you didn't respond to the state's postcard to select a party, and you didn't respond at all to say you don't want to be registered, you're just coming through as nonpartisan, not just nonpartisan. You're still able to vote, but you're a nonpartisan voter. You're a non-affiliated voter. What that means for a primary is that you're not going to see any of these partisan contests that we've been discussing. So you won't see any of these legislative seats or even county commissioners as of right now on your ballot in May. You'll see it in November, you'll get the same ballot as all your neighbors, but you won't in May. So it's really tricky because voters don't often think about the election until their ballot is in their hand. And in Oregon, unfortunately, by the time the voter has their ballot in their hand, it's too late to change your party affiliation. So you might call us up and say, hey, well, I've been registered, I've been voting whichever party forever. And maybe you have in November, but I can see it on your record. You have it in May. So, and then of course the accusations come that we're updating parties. We're not. You're the only ones that can change your party affiliation. We can't. But the main point is that is to please spread the word that the party affiliation deadline is next week. It's the 26th. So anybody wants to see something partisan on their ballot, please re-register before that date, because otherwise it's too late for this election. Again, November is a different story. Every precinct will receive it. Every voter in every precinct will receive the same ballot.
So when you registered, like I just got my driver's license.
Yes.
I had a choice of three: independent, Republican, Democrat.
You need to pick one, or you.
I wanted to register as an independent.
Yeah.
And that means I couldn't vote in any of the
Yes.
primaries.
So yes, you will receive a ballot, and you would have more options. There's more options to more party affiliations. They're all minor parties, so they all basically mean the same thing. You'll receive a non-affiliated or nonpartisan ballot.
Right.
So Dem, Rep, non-affiliated are the only 3 types of ballots we have this election. And then the other note is that independent as a term means party here in Oregon. You know, people still use it interchangeably with nonpartisan, but to me it's a little bit sneaky because it's actually a party. So somebody might be looking through the list of party affiliations and say, I'm independent. I don't want a party. I'm independent.
Right.
It says party right next to it. So,
Right.
so it
Is
really,
there a
you really need
non-affiliated?
Johnson is running.
non-affiliated, non-affiliated with a party.
Non-affiliated.
Yes, that's an option, right?
Yes.
But I was independent forever and I didn't get a vote in the election, so I mean, one way or the other, you gotta pick so you can.
Yeah.
And we need open, the whole country needs open primaries so that we don't get
I agree.
people playing to the extremes.
Yeah.
But until that happens, this is the garbage we gotta deal with.
Yeah, and for the, at least that party change deadline, you know, that's something, it would be nice if it were after voters, it would be a cost on us that would have to reissue a ballot and change the party leader. But at least you'd have the ability to vote for who you choose to when you're actually thinking about it. Just a couple of real quick things, sorry. When you get your ballot this election, in the past, we've had that blue secrecy sleeve. We don't have that anymore, but we've added a printed secrecy weave on the inside of the envelope, like a banker's envelope. It still maintains your secrecy and your privacy, but doing away with the Secretary of State has allowed us to do away from the sleeve, so it saves us money, saves us time in processing. So we're going to give that a shot this election. Postmarks now count. If you mail your ballot on election day and it's postmarked on election day, and we receive it within 7 days after election day, we can count that ballot.
But it has to be postmarked no later.
It has to be
than
part
midnight.
postmarked, yep. And that's part of the attestation too. You're saying you cast this ballot before 8
And
o'clock.
that was part of the
election day.
controversy too in the last election.
And take it to a ballot drop box. Don't
They
you?
have drop boxes.
A drop box is
You
going
can
straight
do
from your
that
hand.
today.
Yes, do not.
Yeah.
That should be
I wouldn't-
made announced everywhere, everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, all about the drop
That
box.
fixes so much of the conflicts.
So but you know, and I'm not advertising. I'm not saying mail your ballot on the day before the election. I'm not. In fact, I'm not a big fan. But just want to let you know that that change is in place. That we can't now count those. It's gonna be a lot more work for us and determine. And some will be postmarked and some won't. If we receive it within 7 days and it's not postmarked, we have to count it.
So you'll be reporting results that may not be complete.
They never are, but yeah.
They never are.
Yeah, it'll be farther from
When
complete.
does it become close race?
So all these deadlines move out a week now, so that, as I mentioned, you have 21 days to to cure your signature. It used to be 14 days, but because of that postmark, that's moved out 7 days. Certification is moved out 7 days to 28 days. That's new, 28 days for certification, things like that. And then just one last plug, and I'm done, sorry. Trusted sources, mis and disinformation are our biggest battles. So, you know, it's those other states, what's happening elsewhere. Just know that Oregon has it right. Know that us as the county clerks are your trusted source. Oregon Secretary of States or National Secretaries of States are your trusted sources. It's not Aunt Betty's Twitter feed. It's not somebody else's Facebook or what they're sharing. It go to our websites and or just call.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Thinking that a nonpartisan, bipartisan commission may be the best approach, and I kind of got some background because we just did that in Michigan. Is it possible to have a ballot initiative in this state?
I'm not
It
sure.
does that.
If somebody else asked, I'm not sure.
No.
I'm sorry. I don't have the answer. I should.
I mean, that's how it happened there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm sure. Well, I'm sure it is.
We
some-
have an initiative system.
So
Yep.
it's X number of registered voters and
Yep.
you're on the ballot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did earn your pen, so please.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
The lowest
highest
grade
grade one.
Lowest grade one.
No, no, the highest
Is it
grade.
driftwood?
I think you guys are those questions for sure.